Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Ham Irons channel. It's part 2 of the Bonanza. I was on for nearly 7 hours earlier on, part 1, which we're going to discuss came to nothing. Absolute waste of 6.5, 7 hours, apart from really good chat and banter with my West Ham fellow fans. I'm joined by 2 more suffering fans. I'm glad to see. It's always good to share the suffering, lads. It helps the
you know what they say, Jazz.
Somewhere-
Misery loves company.
I guess.
I don't even know how to describe what I'm feeling at the moment. But before
Me
we get
neither.
into it, Irish Tommy, really proud and happy making his debut on my channel. How you been, sir? You been all right?
Yeah, same old ding dong. Work. You know how it is. The daily
Ding
grind.
dong. Good,
Yeah.
good. And I've got
was-
Anvil. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Tommy, go ahead.
So I was hoping the transfer window might cheer me up a bit. For January, miserable weather and dark mornings and dark evenings, and I thought maybe West Ham would brighten it a little bit with the transfer window, but no.
I can't tell you how I feel. I'm usually okay in a lot of things. I'm not in a good place, really. But I'm glad I'm able to share the platform with people like yourself, and the good people join later on. James Anvil, how you doing, sir? From Canada, how you doing? You all right?
I'm all right, yeah. I stay up
Yeah.
till like 4 in the morning my time just to see if we'd do anything, and it wasn't worth it. I only got up about an hour ago.
Right, Steve, don't be shy, Steve. He's going to be coming on later on. So Steve has been one of those, Tommy, that told me right from the beginning no one's going to come in, and he's been a fan since the early 70s, and it is what it is, mate. So anyway, Steve, thank you for coming on in the comments. Backlash. I don't even want to go to the next game, mate. It's silly opinion and thought, but that's what I feel like at the moment. I'm pretty on the floor. There we go. So there you go. Three comments from. I know both these Steves are from the early 70s, quite experienced fans. And Tommy, take it away, mate. The way they feel, is that the way you feel?
You're on mute.
Sorry, didn't realize.
That's all right,
Yeah,
Tommy.
it's okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. You've seen the comments, mate. Look, mugs, piss takers, backlash, fucking disgrace, Tommy.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing nothing but that on Twitter for the rest of the night and tomorrow, and God knows for how long. It's actually quite unbelievable that we find ourselves in a situation where it looks like we won't sign a single player in January. I'm not the most optimistic of fans when it comes to GSB and David Moyes getting signings done, but I thought we'd get a couple in. I really did. I thought we'd do some business. And the fact now that it looks like we won't do any whatsoever is completely inexcusable. It's actually disgraceful given our situation, because we have one striker who's not really a striker in Antonio, who's off playing with Jamaica, who already looks knackered and out of form and has been for a little while. Badly needed a striker, not going to get one. Badly needed a centre back to go in beside Zuma, a left-sided centre back preferably, because Dawson and certainly Diop are really not of the required standard. They are backup centre backs, and because Diop is so poor, Zuma is now having to play out of position as the left-sided centre back, where he's not quite as effective. So completely inexcusable we don't have a centre back in. Could also, I think, have really used the backup left back at least for Cresswell, because if he goes down, we've seen what happens then. We've seen, that Masuaku can't do that job whatsoever. Ben Johnson does over there, but it's not his natural position. He plays much better on the right. An attacking midfielder, I wouldn't have lost too much sleep over. I think, with Benrahma coming back so early from AFCON, I think we can get by in the midfield positions, so we've got, players that can come in there. Vlasic and Fornals, for example, can come in if Benrahma isn't doing it, or Lanzini isn't doing it. So I really wanted to see 3 signings at least: centre back, left back, and a striker. They're bad. The reason being, of course, as we all know, is that our squad is very thin. Our bench is weak. So we're bringing on, almost without exception, Moyes is bringing on the likes of Yarmolenko and Masuaku, who are simply not up to the job. They bring nothing to the team. They don't improve us when they come on. And we've got games coming up. We've got a very nice draw in the FA Cup. We're going to go through in the FA Cup against Kidderminster.
You say that.
We will. We're going to go through against Kidderminster into the next round. And we've also got Premier League, of course, very important second part of the season coming up, very important run-in for trying to secure European football for next season. And we're going to have the knockout phase, last 16, in March of the Europa League. So we needed bodies, and we needed them badly. And if the clock strikes 11 and we haven't got a single one, I think a lot of questions are going to have to be asked about why we don't have any players, because we need to figure this out. We need to find out, as fans, why this kind of incompetence is running through our club. Frank Lampard joined Everton today and gave some players he'd like to try and get in to Moshiri or whoever it is that deals with those things at Everton. They got 2 players like that. 2 players like that for Lampard. He's just in the door. They got 2 players in immediately with no fuss. And said, there you go, Frank. There's a couple of players we were able to get for you today. I know it wasn't much time, but we've got you a couple of players that you were happy for us to bring in. We've had the whole window, and we can't sign one. We need to find out what the fuck is going on at our club. This is flat out incompetence. And
well, there's one answer for that, Tommy, mate. It's David Sullivan.
I think there may be more
It's
than
not
one
just
answer.
David Sullivan, though. It's not just David Sullivan, though. If you look at the bigger picture.
Well, the bigger picture is the fact that he doesn't like spending money, and he will quibble over a few million, as me and Yaz were talking about earlier. He's doing the same. He's doing the same thing again. It's as the old adage goes, with Albert Einstein's definition of insanity, of doing exactly the same things and expecting different results.
Yeah, and I think when you look at it, I mean, the Coletta Carr signing should have been very simple and straightforward to get done.
Yep.
It really should
We
have.
needed
We
it.
should have been able to get a deal done for Coletta Carr in 3 days. 4 days.
Even less.
If that,
maybe.
you look at
Couple of
Jared
days, and I'm
Bowen
being
this time
generous.
last year. You
I'm
look
being
at Jared
generous.
Bowen this time last year. It was 5 hours that took.
Yeah, even with a little negotiation. I'm not saying you just immediately stump up their exact asking price. Fine if you want to negotiate a little bit, but you make sure you get a deal done. And if it comes down to it and they stick firm and say, no, we have to get the 15 for him, then you say, all right, fine, look, we'll give you it. It's 15 million. He's well worth it, and you get the deal done. The fact that we haven't been able to get a deal done for Coletta Carr just shows the absolute farce that is West Ham United when it comes to transfers.
But at the same
yeah.
point, again, looking at the bigger picture, not many clubs are doing that much business this window that are in dire need of players as well. Up until, like you're saying, Tommy, up until Everton today are trying to correct their mistakes they've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years.
Newcastle bought a lot of players.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I completely get what you're saying, mate. But to be honest, I don't care what other clubs are doing or not doing. We need to. I'm only focused on West Ham, and this is the same old. Absolutely no excuse for this. Absolutely none. If that transfer window closes this evening, we've got no players signed. I don't even care what excuses the likes of David Moyes or anyone else at the club gives. There are no excuses for this.
James, I feel that we were in a really good position on the cusp of top 4, top 5, and just needed to bring in a couple of minimum good squad players to beef up the bench, and that would have made the starting lineup a bit more happier, more motivation for Antonio to have someone competing with him, able to perhaps rotate some of the players who've played week in, week out. We haven't played the clever game Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal have played with cancelling games. We played 3 games week in, week out. We've been out of Europa for many months. It doesn't feel like it. The players haven't had the rest. So, James, take it away, mate. It's an open platform. What are your feelings at the moment, and what you think's
Well,
gone
I got
wrong,
a lot
mate?
to say. I got a
Go
lot to
for
say.
it.
I wrote some of it down on my phone last night. If anyone knows me from being on this channel, one thing I always talk about with clubs that want to progress forward is not just signing in January and then thinking about the rest of the season. It's also planning for the long-term future. What you have to look at with West Ham is we're potentially going to lose Rice and Bowen in the summer, and Noble's retiring. That's 3 players gone. Yarmolenko's out of contract. Lanzini's out of contract next summer. Masuaku's probably going to be out of contract. So Antonio's getting older. Fabianski's out of contract next season. So you've got to think about long term as well. And think about, what could I do long term to bring in younger players that could solve that problem? And we are a very appealing club. I will be clear on this. Despite what everyone says with the ownership and how we do our business, West Ham is quite an appealing club at this moment in time because it's based in London in a massive cosmopolitan footballing city. It's in the Europa League, and it's doing well in the domestic league. So those 3 things would, you'd think, draw players into us. We appointed Rob Newman as this director of football. It was a relief for us because we finally were getting a recruitment system at West Ham. We thought it would decrease David Sullivan's role in scouting players and negotiating, and it would give somebody else the power. And Rob Newman was very trustworthy because he'd been at Manchester City for a very long time. And he signed some very class players for City in that time. And you could argue that he helped to build the team because of his wheeling and dealing. So getting him at West Ham was a good thing when it was announced in October. Since October, I have not seen his face anywhere. He's saying, oh, yeah, it's Moyes as well. Yeah, it is. Well, the thing is with David Moyes, is my argument with him. He is passive. He's a passive person who doesn't have the balls to stand up to anyone, in my opinion. Even though he stood up to the board, he's not going to put his foot down like Pellegrini did. Moyes is very much a yes man who just complies with a lot of stuff and seems to pay for the cracks with a lot of things. I do agree with him saying that he wants to get the right players with the right attitudes because we don't want a bad chemistry forming because of player egos. I get that. I'm not against him doing that. But as I said before on my own channel, faffing about costs you your targets. And it means you don't end up signing the players that you want. And if he's saying we can get players than what we've currently got, there is definitely someone out there who's better than younger and fitter than Antonio. There's definitely someone better out there than Masuaku. I could probably name at least 5 players off the top of my head who I could name. No activity being done. I've trusted Moyes because he's put us in a good position. I've trusted Moyes because he signed good players at the end of transfer windows, even if he did leave it late. I think last summer, signing the players at the last end of the month was a good thing because they did improve us. Zuma, really good signing. Vlasic turned out to be a good signing. Kral, maybe not so much. Areola, a keeper for the future. So we actually kind of compromised, and we said, oh yeah, maybe he hasn't signed a striker that summer, but at least he's got these players in. At least it's improved in little areas. But we've gone 3 windows now without a proper striker. And Moyes says, oh, I don't want a stopgap. I don't want a stopgap striker. Well, let me put it this way. I actually bought a new car last October. And before I got that new car, I borrowed a couple of cars until I got the car that I wanted. It should be the same thing with strikers and the same thing with the players. We've got to get someone in temporarily, okay, who can just make a difference for a couple of months until you get what you want. And no one's going to be mad at you because you at least made an effort to correct the problem. Moyes hasn't made an effort to do that. We have no depth and no competition. Moyes talks about depth and competition. It's his fault again for not signing anybody. And the fact that we're chucking £50 million bids at people and the fact that ex-West Ham United employee says that Moyes has money to spend suggests that Moyes has got money to spend. But Moyes doesn't seem to want to do anything about that. Antonio even admits he wants a backup striker. And if he's actually crying out for it, I don't blame him. We all slag off Antonio saying, oh, he gets run down all that. But do you blame him the amount of games that he has to play all the time?
Well, he didn't really say that. He said he welcomes the competition. He doesn't say, we need another striker.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. We've had managers in the past who've had flaws. Okay, no manager's been perfect. But look at Bilic and look at Pellegrini. They had striker depth. Bilic did. He had about 4 strikers at once. Pellegrini had about 3 in his first season. People who he could depend on. Antonio was never always just out on his own. I really wish we would sign players. And GSB get it in the neck, and I'm one of those people who does not like them. but they gave David Moyes the tools to work with, and he's really chosen not to work with them. Newman seems to just steal a living because I don't know where the hell he's gone. There's no word from him anywhere. And Moyes, again, takes unnecessary risks, jeopardising our season. The only way we can keep some of our big-name players and to keep attracting any chance of attracting really big players to West Ham is to get European football again at the very least. Can we do that with the squad being run ragged and down to the ground? I don't think we can. And there's an argument I would say David Moyes has done a lot of good work for the club, but let's not just use that as a scapegoat for what we're doing in the league right now. He's done good up to this point, but he still always needs to prove himself further. Always as a manager, he's saying, oh, I've got a point to prove, I've got a point to prove. Your point was to prove was to sign players. Your actions speak louder than words. You have not done it, David. You faff about, you piss about. Newman's not even being used. Your scouting system's not being used. And when West Ham do slide down the table, Moisey, don't come crying to us. Simply put, rant over.
Bill, take it over, son.
Where do I start? Yeah, look, obviously, like everyone was disappointed with today, but I think it was to be expected. Nothing was going to happen really today. But I think just over this window in particular, we've had months now to get bids in, and I don't know why. You know, it's only been in the last week. I don't know if they're phantom bids or whatever they probably were, but why is it taking to the last week for us to actually put bids in for players? We should put bids in 1st of January. Even you can put bids in out the window. You can still do that. Obviously, you can then 1st of January the players actually move. So yeah, it's really disappointing. I think for any fan to say that Rob Newman's a waste of time, we'll give the guy a break. I mean, he's only been there a couple of months. He's been at Man City, as James
officially, yeah. Because remember, he was on garden leave over the summer period. Remember?
Yeah, exactly. So October, a couple of months. So
yeah.
Give the guy a break. And his record at Man City, they hardly get any transfers wrong. So let's come a little bit, put a little bit in perspective. We've said what we've needed since the season started, what we've needed, and that still hasn't improved. So it's really, really disappointing, obviously. But it's typical sort of GSB, like these phantom bids, and wasting time. Were we really going to get Phillips and Rafinha, for example? I think that's just it's the classic Sullivan. We tried all that nonsense. How many years that ain't a recent thing. That's happened for a while. And I think what James said initially was correct about the strikers. In Pellegrini's first season, we had Marco Arnautovic, Javier Hernandez, Lucas Perez, and Andy Carroll, right? 4 proven strikers in the Premier League, right? But the downfall of Pellegrini, right, and downfall of our striking department was his second season, where all of those were disappeared from the club, right? And we had Sebastian Haller and Alban Lajeti, 2 unproven at this level. Our striking department hasn't been the same since then. So yeah, it is frustrating. Look, we're talking about all this, and we're still 5th in the league. So we're not like, it's not like we're struggling. I know it's really disappointing. It's not like we're battling relegation or anything, but unfortunately, I think this is going to be the sad reality, as it has been under GSB. It's going to continue until they eventually leave, which will hopefully be next year, I assume. So
yeah, allegedly.
So where the hell's Kretinsky at as well with his massive cash injection?
Well, he did. He said, didn't he, that when he joined, be careful about signings in January. That's not a guarantee. He said that when he invested the money.
And it's not just that. It's the majority of the 150, 160 million that you put in. Most of that was to try and bring us down from being £250 million in debt before we went there. You said there was only only a little portion of that was going to go on to be available for January and this coming summer as well.
Well, I'll take Kretinsky's honesty there about January. I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I take his honesty there.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear these bloody excuses about because Moyes is going to do it. Trying to sign players in January, it's tough and it's fuck off. No,
they can't sign players in the summer, Tommy.
That's one of the things that really boils my piss is all this excuse making about the January transfer window. It's very difficult, hard to sign players, yada yada yada. Fuck off. No, it's not.
Yeah. Listen, we waited till the last day of the summer window, mate, to bring a couple of players in. I don't believe none of that. Like you said, it's.
I still don't think that summer window was good though.
And I still think that Lingard thing, if the money's there on the table, you can get the player out of any club if you've got the will.
It's not happening.
You know?
It's not happening. Have you seen the updates on it? Yes, it's not happening.
No, it's not happening, mate. It's not happening.
The updates is exactly as we talked about in the last broadcast. They were going to try and fleece Newcastle for every penny they got. They backed off. Man United see us as a threat to European competition, so they're not saying that he's not coming to us. Therefore, he's staying at Man United on the bench for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
that's fine.
He should force a move.
That's fine. We don't have to sign Lingard. If United don't want to sell him and they're going to make him stay,
look for an alternative.
That's their prerogative.
Exactly.
But, I mean, you don't just throw your hat at it and say, "Oh well, they don't want to sell. What are you going to do?" You know that's
well, the alternative originally was Vlasic because they were trying to bring through Lingard and that wasn't happening. So they brought in Vlasic as a temporary, well, whatever you want to look at it, but that's what it was. His positioning is exactly the same as what Lingard can do. He can play all over the attacking options.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what as well. I have no sympathy for Lingard whatsoever. He put himself in this position. He could have come to us in the summer, or he could have gotten a move somewhere else. He could have said, "Look, I'm not getting my time at United. I want to try and force myself into the England team, and so I need to keep playing." He could have moved in the summer. United would have sold him. There were clubs that would have stumped up the cash for him, possibly ourselves included. And he decided to take his chances at Man United, see if he could get any game time. Maybe
but also at the same point,
bullshit him. He should have left.
That's exactly it, Tommy. That's exactly what happened. He had a conversation and said, "No, you are in my plan." So he thought, "All right, I'll give it a go," and backfired.
We should have. Tommy, you're right, mate. Especially at the start of this window, but United were not going to let him go after letting Martial go to Sevilla. So if he got him beforehand and said to Ranić and said, "Look, I want to go at the start of the window," he would have had a better opportunity. But with Martial going on loan, it was always going to be more unlikely.
I mean, more rubbish things saying we're going in for Origi last minute. There's something out there. I don't know.
You know, this is just the cycle of the West Ham transfer window. You get a really big name, you get buzzed at the start of the window, and then as it goes on, you just hear the same names drag on, gets mentioned everywhere, which is one thing that this club needs to damn well cut out. Is bloody posting its transfer rumours left, right, and centre. Because Villa do it right; they just keep everything on the low. And Moyes says he wants the leak shutting down, so it's I suppose we're all to blame as well because we probably all share it on Twitter and stuff. But what I'm saying is that you start off good. And we started off with like Nate Kanake, Jonathan David, and the end of the window we're doing some geezer from Toulouse and John Egan. This is the point it gets to. And if you're wondering about this whole window, I'm not angry about it because I know that I personally am not to blame for what's happened at the club. And nor are we fans. We're not the ones who've got to answer to this stuff. We're probably the victims of it all because we're going to have to see the catastrophic, and could use that word, effects that it's going to have on the whole team and our performances in the season. And I'm very concerned.
Did you see
it's worrying, but I wouldn't say it was catastrophic, mate, because we're not getting relegated this season. We're going to finish in a decent position. But I know what you mean. It's worrying times. I wouldn't say it was catastrophic, but it's worrying times. That's for sure.
Maybe catastrophic was just too dramatic of a word, but you get what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it could be catastrophic in the sense that we could miss out completely on European football next season, by tumbling down the table a bit to like 9th or something at the end of the season. And we could get knocked out in the last 16 potentially of Europa League, because we've got 2 or 3 key injuries that we can't cover whatsoever. Or because the form of certain players is too poor and we've got literally nobody on the bench who can come in and replace them and do better. So this could really cost us big time. And I even saw today, Nat Phillips went
Bournemouth
on loan in the Championship. You're really telling me if we looked like the Coletta Care deal wasn't happening, that we couldn't have just gone and nabbed Phillips for the rest of the season on loan?
There's a player called Ahmed Hodzik, who I mentioned in one of my scouting report videos, who's gone to Bordeaux, and people are saying he would have been good at West Ham. And I'm like, yeah, bloody well would have.
Well, listen, West Ham didn't sign anyone, but I signed George for our channel. George, how you doing, mate? You
I'm
all
good,
right?
mate. You all right? How things?
Yes.
That's good.
Take it
That's
you're all
not
as
too bad.
disappointed as I am today, then.
Listen, at least I got you under the deal, mate. How you been? Been waiting to get you on for a while. Really,
Yeah,
good.
mate.
Good to
It's
see
been
you
a
come
long
on,
time
mate.
coming. I've been all right, you know. It's just been a day of looking at my phone, hoping for some sort of update, and then all the updates have just been, oh, we're not getting Lingard, we're not getting Kaleta, we're not getting whoever, and I'm not even surprised anymore, mate. You know, it's just
Yeah, same.
I think, you know, for all the stick that David Moyes and Rob Newman have got, which I can understand to a certain degree, the underlying factor and the one that ultimately dictates everything, it's Sullivan and Gold.
He's what, yeah, exactly. He's the one with the money. I mean, Newman and Moyes can do what they're not the one putting in the offers, are they?
No,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not
They're
their money.
They're not the ones making phantom bids for Phillips and Rafinha. Let's have it right, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
They're
that's
not the
exactly
ones. They're
it.
not the ones telling Claret and Hugh we tried.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's just
Which honestly, not all jokes aside, they literally. I don't really read Claret and Hugh, but just out of stupidity, I read it yesterday, and it was right at one of the articles talking about the transfer window. Right at the end, they said our source tells us we are trying. I fucking creased up.
Oh,
That was the funniest thing I've read this
Don't
week.
give
It
them the
really
time
was.
of day.
Listen, I reckon there's going to be a statement going out tomorrow or the day after on TalkSport through Jim White. So watch out for that.
They've already,
Mate, not even that. I give you an hour and 3/4. Seriously, I give you an hour and 3/4.
1 minute past 11.
Yeah. Honestly, 11:15. West Ham tried. Sorry, people.
Yeah, that's Jim White all over in it, you know. But it's just the most depressing thing is, you know, that if we had, say, 15, 20 points less than we've got at the minute, you know, we'd have brought in 3 or 4 players this window because they can't afford for us to go down. But they know that, you know, they're not, even if we have a bad second half of the season, worst case scenario, we'll finish around 8th, 9th, an absolute worst case scenario, you'd think. So for them, realistically, they're probably going to sell the club in a year's time. What the whole Kretinsky thing already. So
apparently, it's already been agreed, isn't it? Apparently,
literally
probably like the day after it expires, he's investing the rest.
Well, that's it. So why would they? They're not going to put their hands in their pockets when they know that they're going to be selling the club in roughly a year's time anyway. So what they're going to bother? It's just until we maybe get to the summer of 2023, this bollocks is going to continue, really.
Yeah,
I mean, George,
agreed.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. Sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
No, just agreeing with George. Yeah, I mean, we all wish it would be different this window, last few windows, but with Sullivan and Gold, you know, it's going to be a sad reality until they eventually fuck off.
Yeah, I think everything we do at work, we do projects, we do other stuff. You need a backup plan in life, don't you? And you've had since November, the summer. David's been in charge a couple of years. You've got teams like sort of Villa, like you said. Lampard just walked in at Everton, bought 2 players. Villa, their manager's not been in that long. Newcastle not been in that long as well, especially the owners. But they managed to get their backroom team together. They've spent a little bit more than what's kind of required, but perhaps that's what's needed to get the job done, you know. And we were in a good position, and I just feel on the floor. I shouldn't, like Bill said, look at the league table. It's brilliant. A lot of clubs would love to be on there, same as us. But it's just that we've perhaps going to be difficult to hang in there with Arsenal's form and players, Tottenham, a couple of more players and a world-class manager on board, and it's going to be hard, mate.
Well,
the thing that cracks me up, I'll tell you, what cracks me up is that we supposedly haven't been able to match Marseille's valuation of Kaleta, which isn't a huge amount of money by any stretch of the imagination. And yet we're supposedly offbidding 50 million each for Calvin Phillips and Rafinha. Pull the fuck
because it was supposed to be 14 million down and then X amount on add-ons.
Yeah, absolutely doable. And then we're supposed to believe, they put 100 million quid bid in to try and snatch Calvin Phillips and Rafinha. Do me a fucking favor.
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't that, Tommy. It was 50 million for Rafinha. No, you can't have him. All right. What about 50 million for Phillips? No, you can't have him either. And it was.
Why do you think we were going to get him?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, the Phillips
Not
one's
this
a
time,
joke.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean the
And we
Phillips
can't-
one's a joke.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
we
not
can't-
only
we
the
can't
timing
stump
of
up
it,
14 million for
but
Carrick.
they rate him as highly as we rate Declan Rice. And
Yeah.
if somebody came in with a £50 million offer for Declan Rice, we'd laugh them out of the room.
Which they've done, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is,
Stupid.
it's like we've known, a defensive midfielder, as good a player as Calvin Phillips is, that's not even a problem area for us right now. When you think, Socek, right, Crowell, Noble as cover, like this whole 50 million.
But the Joel, just to interject here, mate. The longer term thinking of it is Noble's gone at the end of the season, as James was talking about, and there's a very, very good chance that we're not going to see Crowell again because he's not good enough. So that leaves us with two defensive midfielders, Socek and Rice.
Possibly, but for the time being, though, you'd think striker, centre back. If you're going to make fans and bids, that those would be the ones to go for. It's just
Exactly.
But George,
so
does that
frustrating.
link? Yeah, but George, does that link into the rumor that Chelsea bid for Rice a couple of days ago, 110 million?
Really,
Yeah, a couple of people told me. Listen, I don't know anything like everyone.
Yeah,
else.
I've not seen that anywhere.
Yeah, I've not heard
No,
that
you
at all,
wouldn't.
mate.
No, you wouldn't hear it. But someone apparently had a few words with someone and said a bid has come in. One of the agents was telling someone 110 million from Chelsea 2 days ago. That's why West Ham was suddenly panicking and throwing 40-50 million pound at players, which we're not used to really. And perhaps the Phillips thing kind of makes sense, but you never know with these stories that go wild this time of the year. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, but that's another thing. 110 million. I mean, Tommy. I mean, in terms of a backup plan, there are enough players out there that eventually moved at the end of the day, wasn't there? Which, like you mentioned, Phillips and
Yeah, I mean, like this is where I don't like David Moyes. David Moyes has this philosophy. He's spoken about it, where if he can't buy a player who's not going to immediately improve the first 11, then he just doesn't want to sign anybody. And I think that's a ridiculous view to take on it. You look at our bench, it's very weak. We have players coming off the bench all the time, Yarmolenko, Masuaku. Crowley doesn't even want to use. Noble is of limited use. There's nothing wrong with bringing in a player who's maybe not worth as much. You're not splashing out on him. But at the very least is someone you can have on the bench who can actually make a difference coming on in a game if and when you need them, or standing in temporarily. If Antonio's suspended or he's out for 2 or 3, 4 games, having a backup striker that you can actually use and who will be useful. There's nothing wrong with padding the bench and improving your squad in that way, because we need players for the bench too, because it's really weak, our bench, really weak.
I think Rice is gone in the
you
summer.
get a player
That's my
who'll
view.
immediately improve the team. Ideally, I agree
Yeah.
with David Moyes. In an ideal world, you'd like to bring in a player who'll go straight into the first team and make you better, and then whichever player he supplanted goes on the bench, and that kind of also strengthens the bench a little bit. But if you can't do that, you have to be pragmatic and look at the situation that you're in overall and say, okay, we can't get this guy, maybe we can get him in the summer. But for now, this guy's a decent player and we can get him for a very reasonable price. Let's get him in, and at the very least, we've got a player we can use off the bench if and when we need him, who can have some kind of impact, who can do a good job for us in the meantime. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And why David Moyes refuses to do it, I do not know.
Do you think it's a case of he might have even maybe established a target for that sort of role, and it would just be a case of, say, maybe Sullivan or the board kind of going, yeah, okay, David, we'll do that if we can get them on loan? Or because I think obviously, he knows football more than we do, and he must be more aware of available players than what we would be. And I think surely there must be some, even if he didn't necessarily think they were better than Antonio, I think there must surely be, he must have a list of players that you think, as you said, would at least do a job on the bench, someone to come on off. And is this all on Moyes, or again, if you peel it back a little bit further, it's why I've been a little bit hesitant to say, like slag him off myself this window, because a little part of me thinks he must have someone in mind, whether that be a backup or someone that he's going to push Antonio out the team completely. But the fact that we're not,
Moyes.
You think it's Moyes?
What about
Moyes is on record. Oh, I only want a player if I feel he'll come in and improve
in press
the first
conferences.
team.
Yeah,
He says it all the time.
always
his
negative about the
excuse
market. Yeah.
Yeah, always
It's
negative
just
about the
because-
market.
Yeah, it goes
I
back
mean,
to what I said about.
I know he said it. I know he has said it before, but a little part of me is thinking: is he just saying that because, again, he's kind of not like hamstrung in a way, but because I've kind of like to think that if any of us were in the position, we would just be we would know that really the depth of the squad is the most important thing at this point. And again, for that, he just, I mean, if I don't know, he has said it, but it just seems like such a bit of a naive and wishful thinking approach, in the sense that we all know what Antonio's hamstrings are like. We all know that he could go at any point, and for there to not be a single player that couldn't just do a job for the time being, I don't know. I think there's got to be more to it than just Moyes doesn't think that any player, they have to be good enough for the starting 11 or they're not good enough for the club. It just seems like such a short-sighted, closed-minded approach.
Well, it is, and I know that's why it's hard to believe, because we all think it's a ridiculous viewpoint to take. But I can only take him at his word, and that's what he says whenever he's asked. Is that he only wants a player to come in if he feels he'll improve the first team. I think it's very short-sighted, and I think it's going to bite us in the ass in the second half of the season.
That's two windows apart from Zuma that I think the Král and Vlasic were panic buys because they waited on Lingard till the end.
Yeah.
This window, nothing's come in. So George, it's kind of every business needs a backup plan, an emergency plan, and nothing's come off. We've got Rob Newman.
Yes, I mean, to be honest, mate. Well, I mean, we all know that it's always been a one in, one out philosophy. Always has been. So I'm guessing, to a degree, I mean, I'm not justifying this, and only just trying to look at it from all different options. That because we knew towards the end of November, or halfway through November, towards the end of November, that Masuaku, Randolph, Yarmolenko, and there's one other player. It was 4 players that they said they wanted to get rid of. Right. So if any of those players had gone, then I reckon we would have seen 1 or 2 come in.
That happened the year before because he wanted Eze or Matty Cash and Watkins, but then because we didn't get no one through the door, because Anderson didn't leave till the last day or two. Then obviously Ben Rama luckily was the only one left on the bench and on the shelf, and even then we nearly messed the whole deal up because of the medical. That was pretty embarrassing. And Brentford, thankfully,
alleged heart condition, which is why we had him on loan first, and then we bought him in the January.
Yeah, it is what it is, mate. James, what you been thinking a bit more, mate?
No, I just zoned out for a minute. I zoned out thinking about how depressed I am. I've literally just sat here with who can say where the road.
Well, this is a good point. I think Rice is out, mate. For me, that's it. Summer Rice is gone, and Bowen for me, both of them out. That's it. That's why I really wanted us to build on this momentum that only comes to West Ham once a decade, if lucky.
Well, this isn't an excuse at all. I'm not saying that we should not have signed a striker. Yes, okay, we have scored the 4th most goals in the Premier League this season, but we still need a striker, and everyone's right. We need someone to come off the bench and make a difference. And I've said this as an example on my own channel. You know, when Jamie Vardy went down at Leicester, did you all notice? No,
I didn't see that. Sorry, no, I didn't see that. No.
When Vardy went down at Leicester, I didn't realise when Vardy wasn't playing at Leicester, did you feel that he wasn't there? No, because he was still scoring goals. Like, for example, it's like with Manchester United.
Yeah. Well, they've got strikers. They've brought in Patson Daka. They've got Ian Echo. There's someone else there. I can't.
Exactly
the name escapes me now, but they've got options.
Yeah, right. And we don't have that because we just don't. And it's I can't take us seriously at all when we do stuff like this. I think to myself, if we want to be a big club like we claim we're a big club, then we're not being a big club. We're being an average club with an average approach to transfers that just so happens to be in a good position because of the manager. If you look at the long stretch of things. And what I still get about this club is I feel that it's very reactive. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like
100%. 100% agree with you, mate.
We needed new signings in the summer, but although we got them in, and I said we're happy we got Zuma and all of those, we won't complain about that, right? But we only really got those players in to avoid bedlam. That's why, to avoid a massive meltdown. It's like, for example, but at the same time, you could argue that it's not the case because when we sell a player, we do it within a few days.
Because we get nothing. We get nothing for them. We usually pay them to get rid of players. We're terrible at getting any money coming in. Yeah.
Like Diop's a prime example of it. We paid what 25 million for him, and now we're willing to let him go for 10.
Eight. I think they bidded Newcastle. Good age as well.
Haller and Anderson.
Yeah.
Haller. Yeah,
the Anderson one was especially criminal. I wanted him gone, but not for pennies.
Tommy, do we need someone like Gerrard or Lampard to attract a high-level player, mate? Is that where we are now, you think, or what do you think?
No,
we need some.
No, I don't. I don't. No, I don't think it's. I don't think we need a big-name manager. I think we're in Europa League. We're pushing for Europe again next season. Best case scenarios, we might be able to challenge for fourth. This is from an outsider looking in. We're in the last 16 Europa League. We're in London, as Anvil said earlier. We're in London. Easy to get players to come play in London. So our name is fairly well known around the continent, I would say, at this point. I don't think it's difficult to get, shall we say, second-tier players to come and play at West Ham. Obviously, the big names aren't going to come here. They want to go to big name clubs, but we can attract very, very good players to West Ham under David Moyes. Everyone can see what a stellar job he's done so far at the club. But the worry now is that because we haven't signed anyone this window, that a lot of the good work that's been done up to January will be wasted in the second half of the season.
What I've been saying on Twitter all day.
This window was so important because we've got players like Bowen, Zuma, Rice. I see Rice what he does day in day out every match, and in the summer it's going to be difficult to keep them. We'll get some money coming in, but there's not many players out there. We can't even buy anyone now. All we needed was just to add a few to the cream we've got, and we would have really given good competition, top six. Yeah.
This is the thing with Moyes, though, saying he wants Premier League proven players. I've got a bit of a thing with this. You say, Gold, Sullivan and Brady view West Ham as a business, okay? A good business takes risks and attempts to take risks to see what happens. It's like saying, maybe this won't happen, but at least we did this and we actually did this. It's like saying, we'll do this. It might not work, but at least we're going to commit to it. We never take risks with transfer windows. And Moyes says he wants to sign proven players. Like, that's not always going to be the case. Like, we have to take risks with some of these players, because it might end up paying off in the end. It's probably just another excuse to faff about. But either way, it's again, like I said, we are a reactive football club. We only do stuff when we need to do it. We don't do stuff as we should do it. And David Moyes doesn't act; he just reacts. So when he doesn't act on, for example, the fact that we've got a lack of depth, we've got injuries, he just makes something like, I'll just look for a solution internally. He just reacts to it. Thinking, for example, we need a new striker, I won't act on that. I'll just react to it. I'll just look for an internal solution, which we don't have either. David Moyes as well is blamed because he's a yes man. He just complies and conforms to everything without really questioning it. And, it's like a puppet on a string.
Does anyone think we need to look at the Moyes position in the window in the summer? Or see a wait to give him summer? See what?
No chance.
No.
Fifth in the league. Stupid to even.
It's all of them, yeah. Jazz. They're all accountable. I understand the Moyes thing. Yeah, he is to blame on this because he's a stubborn bastard. But it all goes back to the owners. Listen, David Moyes is not sitting in that room having that meeting with Coletta Carr at present and mucking about over £2 million. That's on our owners at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So the owners, and what the owners are doing, they are panicking now because they need to get a signing in. Because if they don't, they know the fan base, as they are now, will be gunning for every one of them. And Kadinsky, because he must be sitting there thinking, what have I walked into here?
Do you reckon Rice and Bowen, that's the end in the summer for both, you think?
I think definitely Rice.
Yeah.
Bowen, not so sure, but I think, I know they've got that Diaz now, Liverpool. I'm kind of glad they have got him because I kind of thought he'd be perfect under a Klopp system. So, yeah, hopefully Bowen stays, but Rice, I think this is the last year we'll get out of Rice, regardless of what we do. I just think he's too good. You know, you think of Man City as well, like Fernandinho's getting older. Chelsea could do with him. Kante's getting older. Man United, we know how bad Man United's midfield is. Like, all of them could and probably should throw silly money at him. So Bowen maybe, but Rice, I think regardless of what we do,
we're actually we've put ourselves in a position where we kind of have to sell Rice next summer. You know, because he's not going to sign a new deal. Absolutely no way is he going to sign a new deal to keep him at the club for longer than 2024. So if we don't sell him this summer, we keep him another season. By the summer of 23, he's in the final season of his contract. And then we're really sweating because his value starts to drop because, you know, clubs might decide, you know, he's young enough that we can wait, we can wait until there's 6 months left in his contract. And then he's going to be worth a hell of a lot less than what West Ham would have been looking to get for him. So we've put ourselves in a position with Rice. I think we have to sell him next summer, whether we like it or not, because that's next summer is the next, and maybe the January after, possibly we'll say a year's time in the January are the only two windows left really where we're going to get our value for Rice, where we're going to get top dollar for him. After that, we're just not going to get it.
Yeah, but I don't think this is all on Rice, though, mate. I'm honest. Like, we shouldn't have to sell our.
No one's saying it's on Rice. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have to sell our prize asset to rebuild our squad. We should be rebuilding our squad anyway, shouldn't we? Let's be honest here.
Yeah, quick question for you guys: if he hadn't deserted Ireland to England, would we still be having the same conversation?
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. I don't think. Yeah. I think that's fine.
But it's ability-wise, regardless of his nationality.
Yeah, I think his quality speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Well, no, I'm not saying about his nationality. I'm just saying that the fact that he jumped ship from Ireland to England has not always played in the back of our minds that we're going to lose him every window, because that's been the conversation every single window since.
I don't think his nationality's got anything to do with it. It's his player's ability, really.
The thing is, though,
as
John,
I've just said, it's got nothing. I'm not saying about that. I'm saying the fact that he jumped ship from one country to another.
Yeah,
that's been playing in everybody's mind since then, and we're having the same conversation.
The thing is, John, we shouldn't be looking at Declan Rice. Well, we should be building around Declan Rice. And at the end of the day, it is the 31st of January at 10 to 9 at night, and West Ham are doing what West Ham done 10 years ago. Fucking about in the transfer window and signing these people who think, I'm sorry, Jazz, but like the fan base needs to stick together now and go at the owners. Because the owners are the ones. I don't really hold Moyes accountable on this one. Because if Moyes is being said, like, go and get me Colette a car, Moyes is not sitting in the boardroom trying to do the deal.
You're right. Yeah, we definitely were speaking to a couple of players, weren't we? Like you said, that means he has been given certainly some names, really, to that.
Yeah. Well, apparently, we were after 5 players, weren't we, a week or so ago, and they all just disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just typical West Ham, no, mate. Like we've all seen this story over and over again. This happens every single window. No, it ain't. And let's be honest, last window, go back a year ago, right? When Lingard come in, we was crying out for a striker 365 days ago, and we still got the same crack that's happening now. Do you know
hi, Berlin boys, can you hear me, mate? You all right?
Yeah, all here, fine, perfect.
What are you driving? What are you doing?
I hope there ain't any epileptics watching.
Yeah. You're right there, mate.
Don't suppose you're on your way back from France with Colette Car, are you?
He's the Uber driver.
Channel's not too far away.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
No problem. Let us know when you want to join in. George, you got anything to add, mate?
I mean, to be honest with you, I kind of agree. Like, I mean, Declan Rice, I do think he'll probably leave. I just think he's, I agree in terms of the Ireland thing. I can kind of understand it a little bit because obviously he is an English lad. And when Ireland wanted him, he probably thought that he wasn't good. I know he said since that he always knew he'd play for England, but let's be real. When you get released by Chelsea at 14 and you're not sure about your own future, when Ireland come calling, you're going to sit there and you're going to go, yeah, all right, I'll take that on. I think Rice probably will leave, and it's a shame. It's a shame, but I kind of think that'll happen regardless, I think only if we really won the Europa League, and even then, I don't think that would necessarily keep him. But I think
that's the catch-22 of it, George. Is if we do win the Europa League, then it's going to bump his price up even more, and more people are going to try and want to sign him as a result of it.
Because he'd be a catalyst of that. It's one of those things, and I think, as you guys have said earlier already, like we needed to add at least 2 free players this window, because we've got, this season has had the potential to outshine 86, in my opinion. We could have had our best ever year, full, even if it's like 4th in the Premier League or record points or whatever, and to be within, at least within our own hands, like to have that. And then just be 2 or 3 players, away from doing the best you can as an owner of a football club, and then to buy no one or to get no one in at all. It's letting that opportunity slip. But for years now, we've all known the extent of the board's ambition has been just to stay up. Moyes has come in and exceeded those expectations, of everyone, not just the club. And then as a result of that, they're happy. They know, and they know they're going to sell the club in a year's time. So they ultimately don't want to invest any more than they need to now. Whereas if we were down,
the problem is though, George, I've heard what you've just said there, mate. Yeah, but the thing is, as a paying fans, now I know a lot of fans. I know the Bowling Boys. I know Jazz. I know them all. Yeah, there's a lot of people who have put their hard-earned money in this club for decades. Yeah, and they're not giving nothing back to the fans. Like, all the fans should stick together, come out and say this is unacceptable. And if you are the biggest supporter of GSB, you should turn around and say this is not acceptable, because as fans, we're 5th in the league. It's the best I've ever seen West Ham in 35 years of my life. And the fans should come out and go, where's the ambition? Because there is none.
No, I agree. I completely agree, mate.
At the end of it, what realistically is going to be their excuse for not getting that Kaleta deal done?
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely
I want to see
no
that.
excuse.
I want to see that.
I want to hear from Moyes or somebody to explain to us why that Kaleta deal didn't get done. It was like,
I just want to bring.
I think, John, what did you say, JP? Was it 14 million with add-ons?
What?
The Kaleta deal.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Because if I remember right, because from doing the research on it, it was they spent 17.1 million on him season before last, if I remember, a couple of seasons ago, 2 or 3 seasons ago, and so they wanted everything up front, bearing in mind how much they're in dire straits.
It's 2 million, John. What we discussed earlier. What we discussed earlier is exactly the figure. Yeah. What we said earlier.
Yeah, so that's the point. So they were trying to make a bit of profit because they're in financial straits, and the closest we got to it was 2 or 3 million short in total, and that was it. Boom, that deal dead.
Blin Boys, how you do? Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, mate. Have your rant. We're all panicking. Have your rant. Go for it, mate. What do you think about what's gone on today, mate?
I had a massive one this morning. Well, I've just been out for an hour, so is it no news? I'm guessing.
Nothing.
Fuck all.
As you can tell by glum faces, mate. No.
Listen, I cracked the space early this morning, and I had a bit of a rant. Then I don't know if anyone was listening, but I just had a little bit.
Sam, I heard everything. Sam,
yeah. So I just heard what
coming on my channel later.
I heard what a little bit.
Basically, it looks like we're going to sign absolutely nobody.
Yeah, well, this is the problem that we've got, and I mentioned it earlier, but basically, so for instance, with that Kaleta car, we've supposedly been after him for 1-2 years, however long, and then they're coming in saying they still want to do this loan to buy business. Well, at the end of the day, how are you gonna know in 4 months, which is what he's going to be given, was if we were to loan him today? How are you going to know by the end of May if he's Premier League ready? I ain't being funny. You're a professional football club. If you can't do your own work in 2 years on a player who's 25, he ain't like some young bucker we could get in. He's 25 years old now. If you still don't know as a professional football club challenging for Europe that this fella's ready to be in the Premier League, like in 4 months he could have a bad 4 months and then he could come good. We know for a fact that players have got to come to the Premier League and they've got to settle down. So why the fuck are we trying to loan all these players and then test them for 4 months? He might have a crap 4 months. But then he might turn into, I don't know, like your second best defender in the league or something. I don't know. It's ridiculous, all these loan to buy options.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're scouting a player properly, you already know what you're fucking buying.
Exactly that.
And
that should have been done at the start of January. I'm sorry, but it should have been done at the start of January. We've known what we've needed. A defender for 2 months, a striker for a year. We should have walked into January in the first 2 weeks, known exactly what we needed. It's already cost us 6 points. Last year, we missed out on the Champions League by 2 points. 10 mil or whatever they're haggling over, whatever fucking money it is. Come the end of the season, if we get the Champions League, they'll soon earn that money back. But because they're fucked around again, it ain't going to happen.
I'll tell you what it's over, because we discussed it earlier, because I spoke to someone earlier who heard firsthand. What it is, that West Ham are haggling over £2 million because they know Marseille are in trouble financially, and West Ham are pouncing about over £2 million. They're just paying the £2 million and getting the player in and going, you know what, this is the player that we're after, yeah. Marseille have said none of that loan to buy. They've said they want the cash because they're
right and all.
Yeah, they're under FFP, I think it is, or like the financial thing, and they're going to get hit on that because of their players. And it's over 2 million. And it works out, me and John discussed it earlier, it works out the euros to pounds, it works out about 1.7, 1.9, something like that million. So it's 2 million, basically. Yeah. So it's peanuts.
Why would Marseille ever go for a deal like that? I mean, it makes no sense for them whatsoever.
What club would?
You know, okay, so maybe we throw them £2 million for the loan till the end of the season with an option to buy. So we could take their player. £2 million not going to do anything for them as a club. We take their player for the rest of the season. If we don't fancy him, we just send him straight back, and they're still stuck with the player that they've been missing out.
It's crazy. The way they try and do business is ridiculous. It ain't good enough for a team trying to go into Europe. I mean, look at Man City.
It's not a Champions League contender team.
No, I'm not comparing us to Man City and their riches, yeah. But look at Man City today, in the middle of January or the end of January, whatever. But in January, they've gone out and they're already looking towards next season. I mean, fuck me, we're still looking at a year ago. It ain't good enough. You can at least run your club. Well, no, exactly. You can at least run your club in the correct way, but we can't even fucking do that. I think it drives me insane.
I think it's a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the thing is, and I'll just go back to my earlier point for those who weren't here. One thing I've always said on my channel is plan for the future, because we've got players out of contract in the summer. We got players like Lanzini,
Ben Johnson.
We got Ben Johnson. Yeah, we got players like Fabianski.
Noble, Rice going probably.
Yeah, we're going to be losing a lot of players. So you need to think for the future, and the best teams have good, competent depth. We don't even have that.
The problem is, though, James, right? And the problem is with all that is West Ham are acid stripping all the players. Yeah, and that is the owners. This has been mentioned a few times, and me doing a YouTube game, I've been on Sam's channel. I spoke to JP before. I've had Tommy on. I spoke to Bill. I've never met George, and I've known Jazz for a while, and yourself. But when you go around the circuit, you start hearing a lot of bollocks. And then you start hearing a lot of facts. And the facts are that West Ham are acid stripping all the players from the owners. When you really look at our squad, we've got an ageing squad. We've got 2 loanees who don't play. Like, we need a complete rebuild in that squad. That's no joke. It's just being fact. And Declan Rice is the key to it. They know Declan Rice is an asset. So they will sell him in the summer, which is heartbreaking. And that money will be reinvested in the squad, and the owners won't have to pay a penny.
Yeah, will it be reinvested though? That's the problem.
I think they would have to, Sam, because they have no choice. Because, like you just said,
if they don't, it's going to be like hell on
earth. Have no squad.
Stadium game in, game out. That's what I'm saying. You need to think about the future.
You're going to have Noble not there, no Crowell. No,
I reckon Noble's going to call these owners out after he's retired.
I heard something earlier on that Noble had actually spoken to either the owners or Moyes and said, "What's going on?" That's what I heard on. I was doing a stream earlier.
I've heard something similar, mate. Yeah.
And I heard Noble actually commented and said, like, or rung them or got hold of someone who's higher up and said, "Why is there no players going to West Ham?" Because I reckon he's probably spoken to Declan, and Declan's probably said, like, "Where's the ambition here? I've got fucking Yarmolenko and Mazuaku I've got to deal with."
Even then, you go back to like the Diangana thing, like summer before last. You know, he had a rant about that on Twitter. But the thing is with these owners, it's nothing new, is it? I go back to the summer of 2013, right? We let Colton Cole go on a free. We brought in Andy Carroll, who everyone knew was injury prone, and it was only Andy Carroll. And then what happens? Oh, Andy Carroll got injured because of course he did. It's Andy Carroll. So then what do? We go back and re-sign Colton Cole. And you know, we were talking about future planning. There has never been a long-term project at this club Never. Not under David Moyes. Not under David Sullivan and Gold. Moyes is coming and through his tactical knowledge and football knowledge in general, and he knows how to run a football club obviously far better than the current owners do. He's basically overachieved with the means he's been given. If you said 2 years ago that we'd be currently fifth, a point or two off the top four, we'd have all laughed at everyone, wouldn't we? If somebody had said that to us a couple of years ago.
Well, he's done it in spite of the board, mate, not because.
Yeah, exactly.
But shouldn't the mentality change though, George?
I agree, it should. But these owners, they only care about their wallet, don't they? At the end of the day, they don't care about the football club and the overall trajectory of that.
George, just to jump on that, I completely agree with you. And it's like when Mike Ashley was at Newcastle.
Yeah.
Look how far they've fallen. Obviously, they've signed players in this window, which we'll fully touch on. But look how far they had fallen before he went. Asset stripping, not investing. It's a very similar thing.
I agree. Lads, can I just say as well about you was touching on, I think James, you was touching on a couple of the other players there. Yeah. Masuaku in that, for instance. I see X come out earlier and he said it as well. So apparently we're not going to bring anyone in. We're not going to bring anyone into the team unless they're better than what we've got. Are you seriously telling me after all this time, but there's no one out there who's better than Yarmolenko, Masuaku? There's no one else who can hit a ball better than Antonio, who can finish better. Come on, it's just
younger, and bitter. It's getting ridiculous. It's getting to a stage now.
It's literally like you get angry talking about it. It's either get angry or have a laugh about it because there's no in between anymore. It's got to the point.
It's so ridiculous. You have to find it funny.
I'm genuinely shocked. I'm not surprised, but I'm genuinely shocked that they've done this. I really am. For the first time,
I'll be honest with you.
They don't surprise me a lot, but I am shocked.
I'm with you on that.
I
was expecting at least something today, and to get nothing, and it looks like we are going to get nothing. I just think it's a big fuck you to all the fans.
The way it's happened as well, I tweeted it earlier, but the way it's happened, even if we went now and got 2 deals over the line, the club is run so badly. This should have been done within the first 2 weeks of January. I'm so wound up by how this club is run that even if, like I say, we went and got 2 deals done over the line there, I don't think I'd have that same, get in there, we're ready to go again. I'm so fuming with the way we're being run at the minute. It ain't good enough. And if we want to progress, we need to get this fixed.
It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, if we didn't sign anybody, the reason why I wouldn't even be buzzing about it is because it's gone on for so long. It's not even a nice surprise. Like when Villa announced Callum Chambers, that was a nice surprise for fans. When they announced Danny Ings, nice surprise for the fans.
No messing about. They just get it done. They're very well run. Very well run.
Jazz, I need to shoot off, boys. So thanks for having me on, Jazz.
Thanks a lot, mate.
The thing is, if you was to write down the list of players that West Ham's been linked with,
I have.
It's about between 50 and 75 players.
It's 90.
Is it 90?
Well, when the Lingard deal come back up earlier, again, people were going, but I'm buzzing to get Lingard in. Yeah, it would have been a brilliant signing, but it ain't good enough. We need Lingard and we need more. And the fact we had Lingard on loan last season, fucked about in the summer, it weren't it was just one of them, just get him on board then. We've had enough of all the mucking about, just get him on board now. But again, it ain't happened. And again, it's just more players, more time wait. How can David Moyes in the club genuinely negotiate with these clubs for 31 days, or however long it's been, and get absolutely nowhere and then not have no backup plan? It's embarrassing.
You know what?
It's pathetic.
You never have a plan B in general. Moyes doesn't even
I think what it is with Gold and Sullivan, the GSB brigade, I feel that they've run out of people to deal with. I think they've burnt so many bridges over the years that they're
great point.
That's
a great shout. Really,
do you know what I mean? And that is the problem, mate. They're running out of people to deal with.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was thinking, mate. Which is why I'm saying we've got 3 after this transfer window closes in 1 hour and 51 minutes. We've got 3 more transfer windows before they fuck off.
Yeah.
Bill, you wanted to go through some of the players that have moved today and perhaps in the way you want to.
Yeah, well, there's no West Ham transfers to talk about.
But let's talk about the West Ham transfer, son. Let's get going.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the West Ham transfers, Bill. Who we signed? Tell us.
Oh, but yeah, unfortunately, the other clubs have signed at least one player.
Which one did you like, Bill? Like the ones that moved today that we could have perhaps got in instead, mate?
Whether we would have gone from, I'm not sure, but I think the two that have stood out for me are Van der Beek on loan to Everton and Ericsson to Brentford.
Ericsson,
glad to see him back. Glad to see him back.
Just glad to see Ericsson, obviously, after the horrific scenes last summer.
Yeah.
He's actually playing football again. And, I think Thomas Frank was one of his coaches before at Denmark youth level, sorry.
Danish connection.
So, just to see him back in the Prem is absolutely brilliant. How well we'll do, I don't know, but I think fair play to Brentford. I mean,
I think Ericsson is nuts to come back myself. I wouldn't put. No, he doesn't.
Aubameyang's leaving Arsenal.
He's gone. Yeah, it's the deal's nearly done.
He did an Odin wingy.
There's no transfer.
I love it, George. Thank you.
He did an Odin wingy, mate, didn't he? He just turned up in Barcelona and they're like, we've got to sort a deal out now.
There's a difference between turning up at the new camp and Loftus Road, isn't there?
You got to fly.
At least there's sunshine there.
Yeah.
He's on holiday anyway, isn't he? He can take the time off if he doesn't go through.
I think as a club, obviously they made a couple today as well, but I think Newcastle, and I know they've had the money, but I think they've spent it really well. I think they've spent
I'll tell
money
you
really
who
well.
I think's a great signing, right? I think Burnley have pulled off a masterstroke. Getting rid of Chris Wood for 25 and getting that Borhurst in from Wolfsburg. He's a good player, mate.
That's what you should do as a club. You get rid of one player in a position, you get another one in, you have a good replacement.
Yeah,
that's what Burnley done.
And they've saved a few quid as well, haven't they? On that
£13 million they've saved.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think getting Trippier in a few weeks ago for Newcastle was a massive statement in saying because he is such a good player. Atletico didn't want to get rid of him. He's a top player. So I think to get him, and he played brilliantly against Leeds the other week. And Matt Targett, I think that's really astute because obviously
it makes sense.
With Luca Dino, obviously he's going to play as he should. He's one of the best in the league. Target's played well for Villa, so I think that's on loan. That's good.
But do you know what's embarrassing though, right? I know I'm going to sort of come back to the West Ham thing a little bit, but Everton have signed two players. They didn't even have a manager. Well, the manager wasn't even confirmed, and they've signed two players in Van der Beek and Dele Alli. That's just that's embarrassing. That's not.
Is Ali done? Is Ali confirmed?
Ali's as good as done.
It's about to be confirmed.
Yeah, it's as good as done. So
it's just 24 hours, and they didn't have a manager.
Frank Lampard's doing an interview. He's like, I look around, I've got Donny van der Beek, I've got Dele Alli to come back into.
Two really good players as well. Like, do you know what I mean? They're two players that if Everton get it right, they're going to take them. And what I tweeted it out earlier, and I just can't help but thinking. But come the summer, when inevitably I think we're probably going to drop out European places because of this. As soon as the summer comes around, we're going to be competing. There's going to be about 11 or 12 really good teams who are all looking for the same players. And then you're going to get Leeds at some point. They're going to want to get involved as well because they're owning the back stem. Over half the league is going to be looking for European football because there's so much money about now. Like, I know you've got all these big clubs, but they can only buy so much. Where all the money's in the Premier League, all the good players come out. But all the big clubs will only have so many players. That's why I like you getting your Philip Coutinho's now at Aston Villa.
One thing that really irritates me, I saw it before we came on, and now's the right time to talk about it because obviously talking about different teams doing their business. But Brighton, Dennis Undav.
Again, another team.
Anyone know who he is? But
no.
At the end of the day, they got a striker in.
Brighton always.
Look at Brighton and who they've bought and who they move on. They do their own work. Like Moyes has had a year now.
They're so well run. Brighton have got, I think, Dan Ashworth still there.
Yeah.
It's brilliantly well run club. Brighton.
The thing is, actually, if you're going to be in the Premier League, you've got to be competitive naturally, and every team's fighting to get into Europe. And and this is a very competitive league. We know that. West Ham's has been more competitive under David Moyes, yes, but there's always what you've got to think is we're here and we're doing well, but how can we kick it up a notch?
This is the thing, isn't it? I mean, this is the thing. This is we've said this for season after season. Jazz and Jimmy have had this conversation as well. It's just the fact that it's all well and good doing stuff on the pitch. It's been great for the last 2 seasons, but it's the stuff off the pitch that's the more important things.
And the problem is, it's the negative vibe now. It's like, as fans, we should be optimistic and thinking, fuck me, we've got Europa League, we've got FA Cup, we can do something this year. But let's be honest, as fans right now, I'm not optimistic about anything. Like,
one thing that worries me is Watford 8 days from now. That atmosphere at home. I don't want to even think about it. I really don't.
As long as there's no protest during the game.
Oh, there won't be, but there'll be things going on.
But the thing is, though, James, if West Ham ever go behind in the game, they will start chanting. That's going to happen, like, because they're going to look at it.
Trickle down effect.
Especially bearing in mind how shit Watford have been, and they've just brought in Hodgson a few days back as well to try and.
They sign players.
Yeah.
Mate,
some
that Newcastle game is going to be hard, mate. Eddie Howe knows how to play against West Ham and beat them more often than not.
What makes me laugh is Newcastle spent all that money, but we've got to deal with Callum Wilson. Do you know what I mean?
No.
All that dough that was spent, and we're going to have to deal with Callum Wilson, who's probably like come out of his injury bed and managed to play against us. You know what I mean?
They'll play with us on crutches.
Yeah, you know it, mate.
I mean, this comment that knowing how like Antonio, he's due an injury, and I hate to say it, he's due an injury.
Yeah,
well overdue.
Everything is so typical about this club.
He's got one more Jamaican game to go before he comes
They
back.
can't even qualify
Thursday,
anymore.
I think it is. Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah.
It's embarrassing though, isn't it? Like, I know it says us as fans, and today I've had a good old fucking rant, and now I'm content. Now I'm like, you know what? This is nothing changes with West Ham ever. Yeah. Like in life, do you know what I mean? An ambitious club. I look at Spurs, for instance. Spurs have gone out and loaned 2 players from Juventus, right? And they've gone as a sign these players, and their fans were going berserk. When I look at us, I just see us as like the standard team again. Like, there's no improvement. It's just we're hoping to finish in Europe. They're expecting to finish in Europe. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Gutted.
Well, I mean, to be honest, mate, that's understandable because Spurs have had a longer run in Europe than we have. We've had one, and we're trying to do it again. So it's going to be the baby steps again that we were talking about earlier. But at the same point, we need to see ambition to step up to that level. You're absolutely right there, mate.
It's all about
who do you blame in all of this though? Because I know people can say about the board.
Responsibility.
Yeah, I think it's a shared responsibility between all of them. Really, I don't like to say it because I'm very much GSB out. I don't go to the games because of them. But on this one, they can't take the full brunt when Moyes has known when the wind was coming. Like Newman's known when
there's also an argument to it as well, Jim. I'm agreeing with you 100%, mate. But there's also an argument about what are the agents trying to do? What are they trying to rinse from us as well, for that matter? And maybe some of the players we're talking to, we're going, we're interested in Europa. Right, you give us Europa League wages. No, we can't afford that. There's also that option on top of it as well. But as we were talking about earlier in the day, mate, it's for me personally, I think it's 25% on Moyes and the rest on David Sullivan for not topping up for the money we need to be spending.
What about Newman, John?
He hasn't been in. Hello, Mike.
Professor's
It hasn't been in the job long enough for us to say anything. To be fair, he hasn't.
Mike, share the pain. Take it away, Mike. Take our pain away. Come on, sir.
Okay. I'm absorbing it now, like this through the screen, through Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi pain absorb, and now I'm hurting for all of you. Thank you. Cheers, JP. Well, this has been a non-event of the greatest order, hasn't it? This transfer window for West Ham, and I'm sure you guys, because I've been listening in, as you know, because I've been commenting, Jazz, right? But it is, to me, it's easy to sit and castigate people and go, oh, it's a disgrace and blah 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 and whatever. But ultimately, for me, it's just a major opportunity missed. When you're doing well, I've got a great opportunity to attract good players to the club. You just do. But, this whole thing about, the amount of times we've tried to buy players before and they go, oh, no, we only want to go for a team that have got going to be in Europe, have got a chance of playing in Europe. Just now. Now's the time to go and get those players. What happens? Nothing. So what's the consensus, guys? Is it lack of money, lack of willingness?
It's a mixture
Lack of
things.
ambition, Mike.
Yeah,
That's what it is, mate.
ambition, lack of GSP not
Urgency.
willing to spend.
It's lack of ambition to me, all day
That's true,
long.
yeah.
Because you got to look at it like
Fair
this:
point.
if we can't sign anyone in our best moment, when can we? When can we sign someone?
That's kind of what I was trying to say. Yeah, you bang
Yeah.
on. I completely agree with you, and that's kind of what the point I'm trying to make. But you've put it more concisely. Let's put it that way. Right? That's my token waffle.
It's certainly short.
The thing that gets me, right? The other thing that gets me, that kind of gets me, is like it's that standoff point. But and it's a highly inaccurate idea. That standoff point of well, we'll only get players in that improve the first team. Okay, I kind of get that, but the problem is when your squad's this small, that is, if you've got a packed squad, great, I get that, but you're choosing of an player that you think improves first team or nothing, right? But those are two options. Nothing is an option, and there is a world of gap between those things. You know, so a player that will dramatically improve the team, or a player of a similar standard, is better than nothing. Do you see what I'm not saying? We should buy a tripe. There's a long way to go before saying, well, Hugo or whatever, Jordan Hugo was a mistake, or getting in, a journeyman player. There are plenty of players who would have been very good deputies that could have come off the bench. I still think one of the reasons we lose games is you look at teams that can bring a game changer or a player that will change the dynamic of a game off the bench. We don't have that. We've got Yarmolenko. Masuaku. That's it. Those subs. That's what we've got. We can laugh. See, I actually really think, Antonio's brilliant coming off the bench. He absolutely terrifies the tired defence. Yeah, he would completely change the dynamic of a team, especially those times when we go 2-3-0 up and then they get it back to 3-3 or 3-2 or whatever. Yeah, they wouldn't do that if we then put Antonio on, because they can't press up against him. But he's too knackered then to make that kind of impact.
But who do you blame here, though, Mike? Who do you blame here? Who's the full blame on? Is it on Moyes on this one? He's had 31 days, or do you blame the owners here and saying they're mucking about with the collector card deal over £2 million?
I'll tell you what, there's a couple of things that really interest me here. And this is a very good question, first of all, by the way. It is the main question. And I personally, I find it amazing, right, that we've got, so we're in a position where we've got a manager who is impacting the club extremely well. Let's just all agree that he's done a brilliant job over the past 1.5 seasons. Yeah? Good? We all agree, right? We've then gone to the point of getting in a sort of infrastructure for recruitment in Rob Newman then. He's brought in some new scouts. We clearly need more, but he has made improvement that way. But no matter what we do with manager, with Rob Newman, and now we've got our mate, our Czech mate, who is hopefully adding some money in, all of it ends up going through the bottleneck that is David Sullivan. Because no matter who identifies the players or what Moyes' stubbornness is, no matter all of that, it goes through this weird bottleneck of this guy who, by his own admission, is definitely on a spectrum when it comes to communicating with people. Do you know what I mean by that? Yeah, he is on a spectrum. Even he says he is. Yeah, he's a bit autistic. He's a bit special, right? And though I know plenty of autistic people who I've actually got one who's a really good mate of mine. Is not meant to be belittling on them, but you wouldn't put them in a peak negotiating deal area, would you? And this whole thing of I'm going to just go in and blindly offer for players we're never ever going to get. If you offered Leeds 100 million for Calvin Phillips, they're not going to sell him at the moment.
No,
or Rafinha.
Not in January, especially.
No. It's the wrong time to go in and make that kind of move. You're absolutely right, and because especially when they are in danger of being swept up in the relegation, because how much is staying up worth to them? You know what I mean? That's the problem they've got. Yeah, so
not as much as it is to us, mate. That's for sure.
But ultimately, do you look at it and you go, well, he just does it so badly, and you can't help but consider, and I'm not a great believer in all of the players they've brought in recently, but over the last 2 transfer windows, let's compare and contrast. Not with big clubs that, that we could rightly be shot down for trying to compare ourselves to, but let's talk about Aston Villa, the way they've done their dealings. No one knew what was going on. Suddenly these players emerge, and I know they sold a player for a lot of money, but they spent a lot of money as well. And they've done well. I actually think Southampton have done really good. But that Brozier guy, that is the player we should be getting.
He's a bloody good player.
He is.
I assume he came off as a sub and he hit the post against us. He came on as a sub, and the minute he started running at our defence, I was like, who the hell's this guy? Do you know what I mean? He was straight in my fantasy team, I'm telling you now, because you could
But do you know what,
see
Mike?
he had goals written all over him.
Well, but we can't find a striker on this planet, though, according to Moyes. That's what does me. He's like, Southampton could find him.
Yeah, Southampton found one that behind Chelsea's sofa, didn't they? Do you know what I mean?
It's just it's laughable.
I think, I think, when Moyes says he wants to find the right players and all of that, I get it. It's about having good attitudes and having players who actually want to play for the badge. Because we've had a lot of players who we've signed for big money who haven't given that full commitment. So I do understand it. But at the same time, having a stopgap in the team is, like Mike say, is better than nothing. Because it's at least something that, and who knows, we could be finding your next talent with a stopgap.
Yeah, but is that being stubborn, though, James? Is he being too stubborn here? Like saying he wants certain players, when sometimes you just got to take the ball by the horns and say we need players at his club, whoever they are.
He's being unrealistic and he's living in his head.
This is what I was kind of saying earlier. Like I think there must be names, there must be players that David Moyes would think I can work with them, or they would do a job for us. You think of the resources he's got at his disposal, and obviously bringing in Rob Newman into the club. For them not to be able to say, "Oh, there's not a striker that we would want to sign," we have to get the right player, as if he couldn't find the right player. I think ultimately this is me just trying to read between the lines, but I think ultimately when he says these things, he's saying, I want to find the right striker, but the one that David Sullivan will agree to sign, whether that be on loan or permanently or for whatever fee. Because ultimately that's where the buck stops for me.
So would you say that Moyes is overthinking the striker, though?
Maybe, and I'm not saying there isn't an element of truth to this idea that he's being stubborn about it, because as I said, I'm sure we could have brought in someone by now, but then you do have to sit there and go, do we want to bring in another Haller or another Anderson or another Yarmolenko? And I think that's where you kind of weigh it up. Then do you go, do you bring one of them in for the time being? Well, I say the time being, if you give them a 2-3 year deal when they're on big wages, then it's not just a stopgap at that point. You're just throwing money down the drain, as we have done with those 3 players. And as I said, I can't believe this statement of I can't find the right striker or a striker that's going to come in and improve the stuff. Because we could all come up with a list of strikers that would realistic targets as well that would improve.
I'd do it every time.
I would
exactly the current 11.
I would say to you, I actually don't think we intended to get anyone. I actually think that was the plan all along, because I find that for all the reasons you've just said, make it, and I completely agree with everything you said, but doesn't that just make you think, well, actually, none of this adds up. None of it adds up. None of it has got any logic behind it. Unless you take into the idea, because you were absolutely bang on. So if you then put that through the filter of, and if you think about the actions that Sullivan's been taking this week, and you put into your head, we were never going to get anyone, then suddenly bidding that money for Calvin Phillips and Rafinha, and the underbidding for the Portuguese striker that he's not Portuguese, the guy from the Portuguese, the Nunes.
Uruguayan.
Sorry, and like underbidding for him. We've underbid for everyone. We will only take Keltakar on loan when they want to send for 15 million, which I'm not being funny, but he's a good player. That is peanuts for him, right? So, but all of that adds up if you take on board that we were never going to sign anyone unless there was a real bargain that they could not resist. Or I genuinely think they would take Lingard if they could get him, which they won't.
But Simon Jordan summed it up brilliantly earlier on.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not his biggest fan, Simon Jordan, but I've got to admit, he hit the nail bang on the head earlier on. And it's like, we've been saying that for a long time about what they've been doing.
Fuck was
and
that?
He said, when you're basically firing in bids, when you know full well they ain't going to accept, then deep down, what they're doing is that they look like they're doing business. It's like I said earlier on this channel, I said you can have an house for £500,000. If someone's going to come in and buy and offer you £200,000, you ain't going to accept it. Do you know what I mean? So it's basically how it is. And
that's very interesting. So Simon Jordan was saying that, was it? I didn't hear that.
On
TalkSport.
Right.
And he also didn't he say something along the lines of telling them
saying what I'm saying there, isn't it? That we were never going to sign anyone. This has been done just to try and placate the fans.
Well, interesting comment there from Frankie saying some of the senior players raised the concern. I heard this a couple of weeks ago, I think. And so, it's been in writing on the wall. And I know a few experienced fans certainly told me that they also felt something doesn't seem right. It doesn't look like we're going to get anyone in.
They've said, "In Moyes we trust until he crashes and burns," is the title of the article.
It's a good title.
I think he's already crashed and burned, mate, and he's halfway out into the Pacific.
I ain't reading that shit. Why is he?
I think it's like, and in this stuff about, there's a late move that just was coming up on you to get here for Origi. You've had all of January. If they wanted to get Origi, they would have done it. They would have got him. They would have got, if West Ham, if you look when they really want to get a player, they move. Souček's a great example of Bowen, and they're capable of, or even look, they really wanted. Moyes really wanted Zuma. He got Zuma. That took quite a lot of prying out of Chelsea because they wanted to get that other defender in from Spain who didn't come in the end and left them short at the back and has caused them issues. That's dropped them points. The fact they sold Zuma to us, undoubtedly. Apart from the fact we beat them, obviously, right? With Zuma in the tip. Apart from that. But that's the obvious one. But actually, through the season, that has cost them points because they've had round pegs in square holes at the back there at points this season when they've conceded. I'm thinking that game. Burnley's a great example.
I don't know if anyone.
If they had Zuma in that, but still, he would have been in that team. They probably wouldn't have conceded in that game.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you're like, so. But that's because Moyes really wanted him. It would have been, that's who you get me. Or you're looking for a new manager time, and that's what they did, right? So I reckon when they really want the player, when Moyes puts his foot down and bends the arm behind the back of Sullivan, suddenly it all happens. So I don't think they really wanted to do any business. They never intended to buy anyone, whether it's because the money's not there, whether it's they've got a different strategy. I don't know. Always a combination.
I completely agree with you, Mike. I think the issue, ultimately, they know they want to sell in a year. I think that's it. When that part of the contract is up, that they won't have to give a certain amount of their profits to the council or whatever. So why are you going to go out and spend 50+ million on players when you know for a fact we're not going to get relegated this year? That's always been their big fear. That's always been the extent of the owner's ambition has been, don't get relegated. And over the last 2 years,
so they don't lose revenue.
We know that's not going to happen. So they probably think, what's the point in shelling out 50+ million on players when we can just get to next year and we can maximize our profits without shelling out?
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's
funny because I actually said as a joke where I was on this at the beginning of the transfer. Do you remember, Jazz? I was on this channel and we were talking about it, and I said, well, here's a plus point. We got 37 points. We're probably not going down. And that's actually the whole point now. That's what's led to our inactivity.
I said this when I first come on. If we were on 20 points or hovering around where Newcastle, Leeds, Burnley are right now, we'd have bought 3 or 4 players in this window. You could have banked
2 years ago, we've done the same thing, though, Jules, didn't we? We bought Bowen
That's when Souček arrived, wasn't it?
Bowen and Souček.
Bowen
was desperate.
And they made a difference.
They did. Totally, you're right, but you bang on.
Did anyone see the remarks from Dean Ashton on TalkSport Literally,
No, I
it
heard
must
he
have
said
been.
something though.
Yeah, he was said when in my time he's fighting against 4-5 strikers, Zamora, Harewood,
Cole,
Teddy
Tevez.
Sheringham.
yeah, and he said he's baffled. He doesn't understand it. How when you're doing so well, why you can't push on typical West Ham fashion we've seen in previous years.
Because I can't understand it though, Jazz. Like West Ham is a London-based club, right? We're a Premier League club, and I look at. I'm going to say this, right? Burnley have signed a striker from Holland, right? A Dutch international, and West Ham cannot find a striker on this planet. It just makes no sense. Do you know what I mean? It's frustrating beyond belief. It's not acceptable, and I think they all need to take a good long hard look at themselves tonight, Moyes included. I think Moyes has done great things with West Ham, but even he has got to be criticised for this one because he's left it 31 days.
He's
But
never immune from criticism.
I heard what Mike said earlier, and I make him absolutely bang on what he was saying. Moyes needs to be a bit firmer in the way he is. He says, right, I want Kaleta Carr here. Get me Kaleta Carr, right? And I don't want to, because no other manager would settle for that. Right? No,
Pellegrini wouldn't. Definitely not.
No other manager would settle with just having one striker at the club.
Exactly.
No,
It's just been
right.
the Ramsey deal's been confirmed now.
Yeah, I've just seen it. Yeah.
David Moyes is a yes man. That's the thing. David Moyes is not. He just looks like a very, no disrespect to him, innocent, easygoing bloke. And the thing is, that's perfect for our owners because they know they can manipulate him in every way, shape, or form. Bilic didn't stand for it. Pellegrini definitely didn't stand for it. And what was the result? Both of them demanded signings. They got them. Bilic did not wait until he did in 2015 because he signed 4 players at the end on the final day of the 2015 summer window. But still, he didn't wait to do all his business in the last week. You know, they all had at least 4 strikers that they could rotate. It's only in the last 2 years that we have started to have lack of depth with a striker. And after all those years where we said, we're going to sign loads of strikers, we need that one striker who can be that one, player who can be a lethal player in front of goal. I feel that we got that in Antonio under David Moyes, and we did get that. But at what cost? Running him to the ground because we have no one else who can start there. And it's just yet again, everything that happens from the top of the club is a trickle-down effect. You don't sign players, so that means you're going to struggle to get anyone off the bench who's competent enough. You're not going to get anybody. You're going to end up not having anyone who can compete for places. So, say for example, Antonio's on a bad run of form. He starts regardless. Who else is going to go up top? Bowen. That's it. Who else? I mean, this is all what it comes back down to is the fact.
To me, all it is, James, is as I've said earlier, mate. Yeah, and I don't like to sort of keep repeating myself, but they are acid stripping all the players away. Bowen and Rice are the final 2 pieces. Because let's be honest,
don't worry.
Yeah, they're the only ones who are worth vast amounts of money. Like Rice and Bowen. I think if you get rid of them 2, there's no value in that team. Ben Rama won't and I like Ben Rama, as everyone knows, but he ain't a 40-50 million man player, and that's coming from me. Fornals has gone off the boil massively, and some people love him, some people are like that with him. So when you really weigh it up, they are just nicking all the players away, making do until they sell. And then once they do sell, that it'll be down to Kadinsky to basically rebuild this squad. And let's be honest.
Frank, sorry to interject there, Jimmy, but you've just come up rightly. Jazz, can you put Frankie's message up again, please, to answering to Elena's question? That's why. That's it. That's why there's nothing available this window.
And that's what I've
a really
said.
good point, by the way. That is a really good point. Yeah.
And we touched on it earlier when we were saying about the majority of the money going from him was supposed to help clear the debt down because we're just going into this season we're £250 million in debt. Yeah. And Frankie's
this is exactly what GSB is. It doesn't matter which club they're in charge of. Birmingham, when they were at Birmingham, these exact same problems happened, and Birmingham.
Exactly.
I remember they had players like Zigic, who was like getting old and he was on massive wages. Players like that. They didn't do much favours for Birmingham, and they haven't really done much favours for us.
Yeah. Lads, I've got to go. Have a good one.
Yeah, I've got to as well because I've got to sort my stuff out. So, guys, it's great to chat to you all.
Thank you.
See you soon.
You all as well.
Thanks, everyone. I just need to go as well because I got gym.
Not been able to chat to anyone else for that matter. But guys, Wonderful. Chin up.
Take care.
Come on, your wines.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
one.
See you later,
Come on,
guys.
lines,
Good night.
mate.
Take care. Thanks
Bye.
a lot, mate. Much appreciated. We've got a really interesting tweet that happened about an hour ago. So if you guys want to kind of...
Both Declan Rice and Mark Noble have attempted to contact David Moyes and the board at West Ham in the last hour, according to source. Oof.
I heard roughly something was going on a little bit before this, but yeah, it's kind of confirms what's been going on, I think. So,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because, they're both leaders in that dressing room. And, I talked about the Dean Garner situation earlier. I don't think either of them would take anything public, but they've got to be, they're going to be as aware as we are that there is the potential here for this season to be something very special for West Ham, to be more special than probably many of us have experienced it, if not in our lifetime, for certainly a number of years. And that by not signing anyone this window, they're effectively throwing that potential away, especially if, we get an injury to Antonio or a couple of other important players. You can kind of kiss that maybe Europa League dream or top. You can certainly kiss top four away and possibly even the FA Cup dream goodbye as well. So I would like to think that internally, whether it's Mark Noble, Rice, Moyes, you'd like to think discussions are ongoing.
I'm going to welcome Steve to the show. He's a good friend of the channel. We've done a lot of things together for the channel. Steve, had a good day at work, mate. I know Steve is one of those who told me he wasn't very positive throughout the window, and you've been proven right, Steve.
I told you. By the way, evening, everyone. Evening, Doctor. How you doing, son? Here's my mate, Michael. Listen,
how you doing,
Mike,
mate? Well, we both said
yeah,
there would be no signings, didn't we?
Well, do you know what song? You know what song we should sing? Oh, there's my boy there. Evening, son. That's my boy, Anglo. You know what song we should sing? Where do I begin to tell the story about the fucking window? Isn't it? Hey, listen, mate. All it boils down to, gents, at the end of the day, is they're taking the fucking piss here at the fan base. They're taking the piss. End of story.
I think you're right, mate. In your wise words, I think you're not far off. I think you've got to.
I've got to say it is. I tell you what's fascinating. Can I throw this out to you guys? Right, we're currently 5th in the Premier League. Most of the teams around us, certainly behind us, have strengthened in this window. Yeah, Spurs certainly have. Are we going to be 5th at the end of the season? Do you think?
No. I reckon probably we could fall as low as 10th. I reckon.
I think the morale is going to drop by a fair bit for what's gone on today. Again, if you read the low ticker, again it could be complete ball, mate. We're trying to sign Origi, trying to get the car deal over the line. I haven't got a clue. I still think we're not that stupid, are we? That we're really not going to bring anyone in. I mean, what's the time now?
We're not.
Let's have a look. 10 something.
I mean, Jazz, Antonio's not even playing on Saturday, right? He might be arrested for Kidderminster anyway. He's playing for Jamaica in the early hours of Thursday morning, our time. Don't quote me, but that's what I think it is. But it's just unbelievable. What the fuck is going on? We've been waiting for a whole year. Look, people were saying that Moyes is going to say, which I think he will, you can't do business in the January window. He had all fucking summer to do it, man. What's going on?
No, I don't know what he can't lie because everyone around. I think someone said earlier in the chat, "Are we the only team who haven't bought anyone in the Premiership?" I don't know if that's true. It can't be far off the mark.
I mean, Antonio, I'm not knocking the geezer, but Antonio's got 2 goals in 16, mate. No, is that how we're going to carry on till the fucking summer? You know what I mean?
Oh, COVID can't be blamed, my mate. COVID, no.
We can kiss goodbye to the Europa, mate. I tell you, we'll be knocked out the next round. I'm telling you.
Listen, look at the strides Arsenal have made in the summer. 100 million spent. Everyone.
Well, even then, and both of them and Spurs haven't got Europe now either. So that they've got nothing to focus on. It's just disappointing, isn't it? I mean, you guys predicted no signings. I thought we would have brought at least a couple of players in, but I'm not overly surprised we haven't because, as I said, ultimately, I do think the extent of the owner's ambitions has always been to stay in the Premier League. And we, as I said, a worst case scenario this season now, we'll probably, we'll finish somewhere around mid-table. because we haven't got in the reinforcements that we needed. But
sorry,
that was-
sorry,
that was-
interrupting, Jazz. I think Matt's trying to come on.
Okay,
Just see a message. Matt was going to try and come on, Jazz. Sorry, mate,
Yeah,
to interrupt you
no,
there.
no problem.
But yeah, like they've got their only ambition really is to make sure we stay in the league, and we know we're going to stay in the league this season. We'll probably stay in the league next season under David Moyes, and as a result of that, they're not going to invest the money that they would have done if we were like on 20 points, or if we were around the 20-point mark. They certainly would have brought in 3 or 4 players because they'd be worried about going down. But because they're not, and what's the point? That they probably don't see the point in bringing anyone in.
But is Moyes seriously? Is Moyes the only manager on this planet who can't find a striker anywhere?
I think I was sorry, Steve. I was saying this before you came on. I think he must have a list of players he wants. It's whether because there's we could all come up with realistic. We could all come up with realistic targets in terms of strikers and things like that. And we're not managers, we're not scouts or anything like that. But realistically, it's not just got to be a player that suits Moyes. It's then got to be someone that David Sullivan goes, yeah, all right, I'll pay the money for that, or I'll get the deal over the line there. And that ultimately, that's where the buck stops. So,
or that you can realistically sign one that we can actually get. This January the January transfer window was going to be a stopgap thing. Just bolster the squad, get a couple of players who can do a job for us for a few seasons. Yeah, and a Rigi type player who could come in, play every other game, alternate a bit with Antonio, or be an impact sub when needed. That sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
As it is, we just don't have the numbers in the forward line. We don't. Full stop. We just don't have enough. We don't have enough defenders with Bonner being injured.
Welcome back, Frankie. How you doing, sir? You all right?
How are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, we're going to be
How are you,
closing
Steve?
at
Mike,
10.
Lord?
So we've got 15 minutes for everyone to... What's been a very draining day for everyone, especially me. So, Frankie, take it away, mate.
The floor's yours, Frank.
Frankie,
Well, I
go.
don't know what
Yeah.
happened there. It all started refreshing, and I don't know what happened there, mate. So I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, go ahead, Frankie. Like what we're going to do, we're going to close off at 10. So we got a good 15, 16 minutes
Don't
for
go
everyone
to bed, mate. Don't go to bed. Come on. Have faith. Keep the faith, mate. Always.
I'm drained, Frankie. I'm drained, mate. I mean, obviously, you can see the ticker. It could be more bull out there. I don't know if I'll still keep thinking we can't be that bad. There's got to be some rabbit's gonna come out the hole in it.
I really, really did believe something would happen. I really did, mate. I at least thought they'd bring in some form of striker. May not have been a marquee signing, might not have even been a full signing, might have been a loan, might have been something, a free transfer somewhere, whatever. But I can't believe there's not going to be a single body coming in that position, mate. I'm flabbergasted, to be honest with you, mate. I can't get my head around it. And mate, we all know, I put that thing up with JP earlier on. We have been told that the club is being prepared for sale, mate. We're trying to save every penny to make it as attractive to investors as possible, clear the debt. We're looking at dropped out again. Sorry, mate. So yeah, it's make it as attractive as possible, clear the debt, buy the stadium, look for a purchaser, and move on. And to be honest, it's not until that happens that these situations are going to change, mate. So I don't know. Maybe there's a silver lining in there somewhere. But maybe I'm clutching at straws. Who knows?
No, I think you're right, mate. They're not really. I mean, gold is on the way. Obviously, shareholding he's dropped down a notch. We're just stupid fans. We've got the club attached to our hearts. These people haven't. And yeah, I think you're right, mate. It doesn't matter really to them. They're going to be out the door very soon. And they don't any protest won't matter, mate. They don't really care. They're going to make a huge profit on what they paid for the club originally. Massive, mate. And
this is the point, mate. We all talk about, right, GSB out and everything else. If you actually sat down with them and asked them how successful they feel like their ownership has been at West Ham United, it would be 10 out. Actually, it wouldn't be 10 out of 10. It'd be 11 out of 10. They have surpassed all expectations as football owners that they could ever have dreamed of. They came in, they got the stadium they want, they've got the money they wanted, they've kept us in where they need to be to make it attractive for a sale. They're going to own that stadium. They're going to make more. Not more profit than anyone in football from ownership, but they'll be right up there, believe me, of one of the people that come out of this in terms of an investment with one of the biggest profits seen from owning a football club. And they'll say, job well done. And they will also point at you and they will say, we told you within 5 years we'd bring you European football, and we also did that. And that's what they'd say.
I'm just looking back in 2010, and they reckon they bought the club for, I don't know, was it 110 million, something like that?
Something like that.
Wow. Whoa, wow. Even if you're not good at maths, you can count the percentage on that, what they're going to get. Because I think Kretinsky, was it 600 odd million he valued that one, something like that? So yeah, about 5-6 times.
Yeah, you've seen the breaking news about Liverpool close to signing that Cavallio from Fulham.
We should have gone for him. He's a player.
Just come up. No.
I heard it was about to happen, and been talking about it.
Even Brighton have signed a striker tonight. What's going on? For fuck's sake.
Who have they signed?
It's just gone over. It's just gone past the bar, Mike. I missed it.
No, they got a good scouting system. So Brighton always do quite well in who they want to buy. I think Frankie's right. It's a business decision. It's just a cloud, and I think David Moyes looks like is just doesn't have the power or the acumen that he should have after 2 years at the club. I think. I don't know. He's one of the old school managers left now in the game. Naive, shall I say naive, or I don't know what to say of him.
It's a bit unfair. Come on. It's a bit unfair. Look what he's done. We are, at the end of the day, even though none of us think we will be come the end of the season, we are currently 5th in the Premier League. We finished 6th last season. He's done a great job.
Oh, yeah.
But his Achilles heel is the transfer window thing. That's
the only thing is, I will not accept if Moyes does a press conference and says it's so hard to sign a striker in this January window.
He
had a fucking summer. He had a summer to it.
An absolute insult.
The thing is, as well, we don't know what he's doing behind closed doors. What he might be saying. I'd be very surprised if he didn't want to sign players as much as we wanted to sign players, because it's not his money and it's his job, and we know he wants to succeed, and we know he wants to push this club as far as he can. He should be proud of the job that he's done so far. It's just, I think maybe there's an element of professionalism in that. If he doesn't get his way publicly, he's not going to throw his toys out the pram. But you'd hope behind closed doors, he has been saying to Sullivan this window, why haven't you got me a player? Why haven't you got me a striker? Why haven't you got me Lingard? Why haven't you got me a defender?
But I don't think he is, mate.
You don't think he is?
I think he handles transfers just like he does his substitutions. He don't like making any, and that's it.
Yeah, it won't be far off, mate.
I mean, he's saying he only wants players he only wants players coming in that are just as good as the squad we've got. There's got to be someone. I'm not knocking Antonio, but 2 goals in 16 games. You can't go from there to the end of the season with him up front with 2 goals in 16 games. There's got to be someone out there. There's got to be someone out there.
I agree. There should be someone out there. And again, I would be amazed if he didn't have a candidate in mind, at least a few players in mind that could come in and do a job. But once if you've got those players, he then has to say to Sullivan, you're going to get them for me. And I think that's where the buck really stops. I'd be amazed when you think of what the turnaround he's had at this football club, the positive impact he's had in the 2 years since he's come back in this second spell. I would be amazed if he didn't have at least 3 or 4 players that he thought, yeah, they'll do. But then it's then a case of Sullivan has to sign that off, and Sullivan has to get it done. Yeah, and that's the thing that's where I think it has to be falling down.
It's slightly different from that now. It used to be like that with Moyes when he used to do the scouting, but now we brought in his name evades me, but
Robert Newman.
Now we brought in Newman. Newman will shortlist what he feels, are the right fit. The board will then narrow that down to who they think they can get. Then that will be presented to Moyes to pick. Moyes will have had a short list of players that the board feel they could go and get in this window. And they did make it very, very clear that there wasn't a lot of money to spend, but there was money to spend. The only reason why we don't have a signing right now is because Moyes didn't fancy any of them. And that's it. That's why we're sitting here without a transfer. And if he didn't fancy any of them, he didn't fancy any of them. That's that.
Ultimately, one of the other things that baffles me about this window, though, is in the summer, right, we've got to have a huge rebuilding job. Do you know how many players are out of contract to the end of the summer? In this summer,
a lot.
This summer,
Yeah,
there's loads. Before you do just to keep the squad numbers where they are, I think we need to bring in 6 players. That's not including Ogbonna or selling Declan Rice, which I think will happen in the summer.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah.
You've got a massive rebuild going on here. A huge rebuild just because of sheer, and I know a lot of them aren't what you'd call first team players. They're people like Yarmolenko and Fredericks and people like that, Masuaku, but they're going. And you're suddenly looking at a very thin squad, and it's not a particularly thick squad now.
No.
So all I'm just saying, though, is at the end of the day, we could have started that a bit, couldn't we? This month,
Yeah,
we could have started that rebuild, because otherwise you are looking at a club that are going to have to bring in something around 8 or 9 players just to stay where we are. Yeah, I mean, they might be better players, but just, I mean, on numbers, just to stay where we are this summer, which is something West Ham don't do. We normally bring in 3 or 4 players, as you know, tops, and that equals players going out. None of those players are going for fees either, are they? But there will be a lot of wages freed up in the case of Yarmolenko, especially in Fredericks, on quite good money as well, isn't he, for a player who never plays. But ultimately, you are looking at a massive rebuild going up there. Also, those squad players, just how committed are they going to be, knowing they're going to be looking for a new contract at the end of the season with another club and not wanting to get injured?
Good point. Good point, mate.
I think
Just
the story.
worth it.
Yeah.
You've got to look at this. You've got to look at the whole, haven't you?
I think the stories are going to follow in a few days. We all know there's going to be some kind of
Excuses.
thing. Talk sport. Bids are gone in. I'm already hearing that apparently we made a £60 million bid for that Benfica guy. I mean, 60 million? And it's got
I don't believe it, Jez. I don't believe it. I do not believe it. No way.
Or they knew that Benfica wouldn't take anything below 75. And then they made a £60 million bid knowing that it wouldn't work.
And Rice and Bowen will be off in the summer. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, Rice will be, I'll tell you now.
Yeah, you're right there, Mike. Rice will be gone. Rice will definitely be gone in the summer. Yeah.
I think I said earlier, I think Liverpool buying that Diaz guy, I think that might have just enabled us to maybe keep Bowen for a little longer. But,
I agree.
Rice, too many. He's too good, and too many clubs need a holding player. In my opinion,
thing when you look at the clubs above us, you look at Liverpool, United, City, Chelsea, maybe not, but those 3, would he improve their teams? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. He would. He would, especially United. I think Chelsea, weirdly, are the team that's supposed to bid from this win, which they didn't. It was a load of crap. But are probably the team that need him the least, because they have actually got a couple of good players in that position. They're not like him, but they're good players. But
I mean, another thing is, Mike, what gets me as well, baffles me is, I know Coletta Carr's not happened, but we was going to take a punt on Nat Phillips, and he's gone on loan to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? You know? Just don't get any of it, mate.
Yeah.
Don't get any of it.
Yeah, it's depressing. We're going to close off soon. So if everyone wants to have their final comments, for me, I think this kind of chance with a player like Rice in our team, including Zuma and David Moyes last couple of years, it comes to us fans in a decade if we're lucky, and looks like once again, as per the tradition of West Ham, when we think we're about to do something, we don't do it. And I think the chance has gone. For me, the chance has gone. Rice will be gone. Don't know how long it'll take, how many years or decades to get a player like that. And again, I watch him at every home game. Absolutely amazing. Does two players' jobs. We've got the captain of Czechoslovakia playing for us and numerous other players, done really well. I think the chance for me, there's only one way, and that's down now from here, and that's just West Ham for me. I think we've peaked 4th, 5th, 5th, 6th. I think we'll get used to bottom 10 again. I think give it a year, and I think it'll take time for the new owners to. I mean, the new owner, again, his wealth is a little bit deceptive. He is very rich, but I've been told he's waiting for an inheritance. I don't know if it's on his wife's side. That's going to bump him up a good bit. So hopefully he's clever enough, astute enough to know that when you go into football, for me, it's always been a mad. Anyone with money to go into football, you're bonkers, mate. But you do need crazy level of money, and I hope he has a plan for us, including obviously buying the stadium, I think, and improving it, or maybe another plan. So for me, pretty on the floor. I think we had a really good chance to build upon what we've seen last 2 years and really challenge those clubs that we fucking hate: Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea. We've given it to them at home. We've beaten them more often than not, but I think we've peaked now, and it's going to be very difficult to kind of especially improve in the summer, especially going back to Mike's what he said, that this was the chance we were above those clubs in terms of attracting players. And in the summer, the Newcastles, the Villas, the Spurs, they're going to be as equally, if not more, attraction for us. So very disappointing day for me, really. So Frankie, take it away and make your final comments on.
It's hard, mate. There ain't a lot to say, is there? It is disappointing. I mean, one of the biggest issues that I have with it is, it's what I expected. Fully, expected it to go down to the final day. I did expect us to pick something up on the final day, to be honest, but that hasn't materialised. If we're not in Europe, is it the end of the world? Maybe not so much, but the fact that we're in that knockout stage of European football and we're showing no ambition to bulk up that squad is a shame. It is just disappointing, mate, because you see all these other people write us off, all these people in that sort of top 6, the Arsenal fans, the Tottenham fans, the Man United fans. You watch these other channels and they all write us off. They don't even consider us in conversation in the top 4, top 6. And I really hoped that we had a chance of getting in there and proving them all wrong and sticking 2 fingers up at them and going, little old West Ham, look what we've done. And now we're sort of just throwing it all away. And it's disappointing, mate. It's still a good season for West Ham. I'm still happy that I'm not looking over my shoulder and having relegation battles no more and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, mate, for once in our life, we had an opportunity to show a bit of ambition and go and do something. And I really thought this was going to be our year. I felt like something special could happen. And unfortunately, we're throwing it all down the pan. But I do think that bigger picture is to get that debt cleared, own that stadium, get a big investor come in and buy up the club for the money that the owners are looking for. And ultimately, mate, that's what we've always wanted. So, maybe in the long term, it all works itself out and we do return to the dizzying heights that we've enjoyed over the last couple of years, mate. But it's just hard to believe when you're West Ham. And anything that can go wrong always goes wrong with us. We sort of seem to turn the corner, bump up the curb and hit a tree, mate. It's what we always do. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, certainly had some great memories last 2 seasons. Really good wins over good teams. Steve, over to you, mate. I know you've been probably the most frustrated, I think, and that goes back to the beginning of the window, isn't it, Steve? You're a fan.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep it because I'm so pissed off. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and I'm just going to say today, West Ham United, you are a fucking disgrace. You've mugged your loyal fan base off. That's all I've got to say because I'm so disappointed, mate. That's it. In a nutshell.
I know you feel. George, take it away, mate.
It's a disappointing day, isn't it? It's a shame because, I thought that we could have our best season for a long time, probably maybe even since '86 or since the cup final year, since last year Upton Park last season. But it's a shame that we've not acted on the potential that's there just by bringing in 2 or 3 players. That's it. But ultimately, because I lost faith in the owners years ago, I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. hopefully we don't get too many injuries, and hopefully Moyes can just keep, the squad togetherness as it has been, and hopefully we can still grind out some results and at least be in the conversation for the foreseeable.
Yeah, thank you for that, and thanks for coming on. Hopefully you're regular now. Before I go to the Professor, Mike, Frankie, again, a good point Frankie made. We've never behaved like a top 4 team last 2 seasons. We've played like one, but we've never been cunning. We didn't get games postponed. And again, you can all slate me. When I watch the game, we don't know how to close off games. We don't know how to win clever fouls, penalties, things like that, which the top 4 get. We're not ruthless enough. David Moyes has coached as much as he can out of the players, but then you can only coach them up to a level. You need to bring in fresh talent that's above what you've got. It was all in front of us that we couldn't go there, really. So, Mike, take it away, mate.
What you don't know is just the side of me here is my bed, and on that bed is a 3-legged ginger tom cat called Pierre. And when Pierre sleeps, right?
How many legs?
When Pierre sleeps, right, which he's doing now, he's got the loudest snort I have ever heard from a cat. Honestly, it's thunderous. That's why I kick him out when I go to bed, right? And that sums up, Pierre is currently summing up this transfer window brilliantly. He must be a West Ham fan. He's going, when transfer window started, within week 1, if we were going to sign anyone, we would have done it then. It should have been lined up and done. It should have all been arranged. We've got the people in place to do this now. Nothing happened then. From that point on, as I said to you, Jazz, I was at that point in the transfer window, and we talked earlier this month, not going to happen. It would have happened then. Everything else has been smoke and mirrors. I don't believe a word of it. It's very interesting to hear. I hadn't heard that, but Simon Jordan had said something similar, that those deals were never meant to happen. And it was just there to placate fans. Well, we tried. We put offers in. Yeah, right. So I'm still jury's out for me as to why, and I understand that's what a lot of the conversation we've been having this evening is. Because if Moyes, as I said to you, when he wanted Zuma, he got Zuma. If he really wanted someone, we would have got them. I don't know if it's him. I don't like the fact that everything still has to go. You got that bottleneck of the Sullivan having to negotiate deals. We should have someone, I'm sorry, but better than him doing it. And I'm convinced we were never going to sign anyone in this window. We were never going to.
I agree.
And I think it was everything's been smoke and mirrors, and to give them an excuse not to do it. Whether that's because the club's going to be sold and money's going to go into getting the stadium, whether it's because, but either way, it's a deflating end of a transfer window. And as I think you were saying, it's just like we've got this issue of whether Moyes can hold the squad together. But we can't compete in 3 tournaments with the squad we've got now, and they're knackered and all the rest of it. We've got one striker, and he's a converted winger. It's just getting and we just don't have the central defenders to do it. We just don't have them. They just aren't there. Once we lost Ogbonna, we were really scratching around, and I'll be amazed at. That's a huge rebuild in the summer we now need. Huge. That is what we need to start thinking about now.
I'm not going to even think about another window, Mike. I've given up. The last 2 windows have totally drained me. I don't even want to go there.
Jazz, are we doing a fantasy show next Monday?
Yeah, hopefully. So I'll be in touch. We'll sort something out and see how we feel and what happens. So, yeah, let me know.
Don't avoid it just because I'm now miles ahead of you.
No, you're doing well, mate. You're doing well. So, yeah, thank you to everyone who's come on here. It's been a mammoth all day. Probably had 20, 25 guests on. It's been brilliant, and we've got nothing to show for it. That's the West Ham way. So
just go and watch Sky Sports News for a fucking hour, isn't it?
Oh, mate.
See all the players other teams have signed. Let's go.
Yeah, you've seen the breaking news now. Crystal Palace have signed that. How do you pronounce it? Mateta. Was he on loan to him? Yeah, they just signed him permanently. Yeah.
He's a good player.
He is.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, like few of you telling me I'm dreading facing Villa, Newcastle, and Everton, and
we'll probably lose home to Watford next Tuesday, Jazz.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Oh, mate, we'll see. But anyway, thank you all. Yeah, it is what it is, mate. But really great show. Good to catch up with you as always, and have a few days of break. I think no shows. History show will be coming out Wednesday. Hope you enjoy that. Again, that's all. I love the history. Good John Lyall days that we all love. That's why I go back to when I'm days like this. Go back to good old days and watch some McAvenny Cotty goals and things like that. Really. So yeah, thank you everyone. Have a great evening and week.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, we'll catch up soon. Take care.
See you later on, mate.
See you later.